episode is dedicated to the latest turn in the geopolitical struggle. It has been officially announced that the European Commission intends to establish a new Center for Democratic Resilience, whose main task will be to counter disinformation and hybrid attacks from Russia. This decision reflects growing concern in Brussels about the scale and consequences of Moscow's external influence, and it is already launching new mechanisms in the areas of European security and information policy. The establishment of such a center is not an impulsive decision, but a logical step in a long-term process. Tensions between Russia and the West have accumulated due to the conflict in Ukraine, sanctions against Moscow, and increasing activity by Russian media and information operations. In a historical context, Russia has been repeatedly accused by Western countries of waging hybrid warfare, ranging from cyber attacks to influence operations aimed at undermining democratic institutions and public trust. Against this backdrop, the European Union considers it necessary to strengthen coordination between member states and create a unified mechanism for analysis, early warning, and response. It's also significant that one of the triggers was an investigation conducted in Belgium, where the increase in drones and other incidents are linked to discussions about frozen Russian assets. All of this forms the context in which Russia is perceived in Brussels, not only as a military conflict actor, but also as a systemic challenge to stability and information security. In the main section, according to sources, the EU plans to establish a center that will include cybersecurity experts, fact-checking journalists, representatives from social media platforms, and think tanks from EU member states and candidates. Russian hybrid campaigns such as Doppelganger, the use of fake media sites to spread anti-language and anti-European rhetoric, have been called a regional threat. In the center's official project, it is noted that Russia is escalating hybrid attacks and conducting an influence campaign against Europe. The media notes that the creation of the center is a key part of the broader Shield of Democracy initiative promoted by EC President Ursula von der Leyen. Participation will be voluntary, and it is expected that not only EU countries but also partners who share common principles will be able to participate. The European Commission's statement emphasizes the need to strengthen the early detection of external media manipulation, establish information sharing mechanisms, and improve media literacy through the involvement of independent fact-checking organizations. In an official comment, Russia considers such steps unfounded accusations and emphasizes that it is itself a victim of information attacks. But Brussels believes the opposite. In the expert community, European analysts, such as experts from the Atlantic Council and other institutions, note that Russia is using a long-term strategy, not just military operations, but also undermining trust within European societies through disinformation campaigns, cyber attacks, and political interference. On the one hand, Russian representatives emphasize that Kyiv and Western capitals are using this as a tool to pressure Moscow and as part of the sanctions regime. On the other hand, Western experts warn that without unified EU coordination, the bloc risks facing a fragmented response. Individual states are unable to effectively address complex hybrid threats on their own. Some analysts from neutral countries point out that the center could become an instrument not only of defense, but also of strengthening pan-European bureaucracy and political control over the media, and this requires transparency and guarantees of respect for freedom of speech. Thus, there are different assessments. Some see the effort as a forced step towards collective security, while others view it as a potentially controversial intervention in the information environment. The consequences of this step are significant for both Russia and Europe and the world as a whole. For Moscow, this means that its foreign policy and information activities are receiving additional publicity and institutional opposition. Increased attention to hybrid operations could lead to new sanctions, information restrictions, and intensified international isolation. For the EU, the creation of the center means that security issues are expanding into the digital and media space. A strategy called information defense is coming to the forefront. This is also important for global connectivity. The prevalence of online campaigns, cyber attacks, and fake news shows that modern conflicts are not only fought on the battlefield, but also in the media environment. The decisions the EU makes could set standards for other regions of the world. For example, how governments respond to external information influence. Finally, from an economic perspective, data centralization and coordination can impact tech companies, social networks, and media platforms, strengthening control over information and potentially creating a new cybersecurity industry, which has its own implications for the global economy and governance. In conclusion, it's worth noting that only time will tell how events will unfold. The EU has already announced a plan to launch the center, but the specific steps, budget, and interaction mechanism have not yet been made public. Moscow, in turn, will be closely watching how it is being called a participant in hybrid attacks. We continue to monitor the situation and will keep you updated on any new developments. Thank you for your attention. Today's news about Russia and Europe.